We appreciate you watching and listening to The Dead Jeff Show. Please like and subscribe and tune in for more videos. It's a great day to be alive on The Dead Jeff Show. Come on in, everybody. I'm Jeff. That is Nick, and we thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, do all the things. And man, you guys did it this week. You know, we had a nice conversation with Nick Harris last week. We appreciate Mr. Nick Harris from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram coming on. And man, it helped with the algorithms a little bit. I'll say thank you to Mr. Harris, but it also helps that he's spot on a few things, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But Nick, we have NFL football every weekend from now until the end of the year, brother. How did you feel about football being back?
Man, I just, it's so nice to be able to sit down, and it's crazy because, you know, my wife loves this, you know, not really, but, you know, we've talked about our love of both American football and European football. And right now we've got the friendlies going on across the pond also. So I've got, you know, it's all over the place right now, man. And then, you know, getting to watch some of the rookies play, watching Hard Knocks with the Seahawks, and just I mean, it's, you go from having nothing, although the World Cup did certainly help bridge. It feels like we haven't really had any time off from sports, right? Like we went from the finals into the World Cup, and now we're now we're back into the preseason football. So I love it. It's just it's nice to have meaningful football coming back in a big bad way.
Now, you brought up a sore subject for me. You brought up soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Football over there, and Man City, as you know, your daughter has selected Man City. You guys are going to be Man City fans. Did not fare so well today against Arsenal. And matter of fact, 25 seconds in, they scored a goal, and then it felt like they just kept on scoring. And man, the post-Pep era did not get off to a great start.
No.
But let's save that for another time, okay? We have NFL football, and, you know, it's really good to see the Cowboys out there playing against other people than themselves. And it's just really nice to have football back. There's something about football season. Now, here in Texas, man, it's still hotter than heck. So it's not fall weather approaching. It's still, the gates of hell have opened and summer is still here. So it's kind of hard to get into that mood yet. But football is back, and man, there's been some big stories, you know, come about. Aaron Donald returning to the Rams, I guess officially now, is sort of a big story. I think it's official.
I don't know if
is it official?
Yeah, I don't think it's I think he's officially been logged for the second time now being at a Rams practice, which I guess because he's retired, there's like a process. But look, I think if he doesn't play this season, I will be shocked. I think Aaron Donald to that ridiculous team is almost a lock. But yeah, he was definitely practicing and noted and listed as, so it's looking more and more likely every day.
Yeah, it's unofficially official. He's coming back, man. There's no reason he wouldn't. You got Myles Garrett out there. And listen, we talked about preseason opening up this weekend, and we know what we get with preseason football, but it's still football. And you get to look at these position battles. You get to look at, okay, all the coaching that's taken place so far, go out and do it against an opponent, live action. So we'll take it at this point, right? We'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think also you know, we're not going to jump ahead here, but don't tell me, you know, people say preseason doesn't matter. We won't talk about last night yet, but just go back in time and look at the Victor Cruzes of the world. You know, these guys that otherwise don't get a shot to make a roster, not only present themselves loud and clear, but then also make for the organization to have some very, very difficult decisions. So I've never been one of like preseason doesn't matter. I think it matters tremendously. If you can just find one gem every one or two cycles of a preseason as an organization, that dramatically changes kind of what you're doing, how you're viewing it. Just think about, hey, I got to pay this dude 45, 50 million. Now I got an undrafted free agent that I can pay the minimum for a few years. And obviously the production will be different, but it just changes the math. So I love preseason football. I always have. We've talked about how we kind of geek out on the unknowns and finding those diamonds in the rough. So I'm adamantly opposed to that train of thought, but I guess I do see where people come from with it.
Well, here's why I love preseason football. I mean, you get your first chance to see the rookies in action, guys with the star on the helmet for the very first time, and you get although maybe a series or two, you
Mm,
get to see them out there. You get to see if all the hype is real. The other part you touched on and I touched on is the position battles.
hmm
The guys in the middle to the bottom of the roster that are holding on for dear life that could change the economics of the team, right? And if you've got a veteran and he's got this undrafted rookie pushing him, well, it makes sense to keep the undrafted, free agent for financial reasons. Now, these things all get settled in the preseason, and sometimes, you know, we joked during the broadcast as Jonathan Mingo. No, he may have just been, lost his roster spot, and we'll get to that. But it's those kinds of stories that are interesting. Now, you mentioned Hard Knocks earlier,
hmm
and it's interesting now that we have Hard Knocks with the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. And did you see their ring ceremony?
I
How that
did.
thing went down?
Opens up and the coming from the rafters, and your boy
Yeah.
Sam Darnold dropping the ring. I mean, yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. And the ring transformed. You push a
Yeah,
button and it
and it
pops
popped
out.
out. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's cool inside stuff that you love to see.
yeah.
You get an inside look at preseason. You get to know these personalities a little bit. And so preseason football is about the underdog. It's about the Invincible movie with Mark Wahlberg, those
hmm
guys, right? Vince
Great movie.
Papale,
Yeah, great movie.
and all of these guys that are trying to make their dreams come true. And that's what I love about preseason football is it's back. It's the announcement that football's back. It's the rookies going out there for the first time, and all these guys jockeying and fighting for position to just make a roster or even make the practice squad. And so they're out going all out and making that happen. But this year, the additional thing that I love is to see this coaching staff
Yeah.
at it for the very, very first time and seeing what they do and how they adjust in a game situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, as we dive into it here, I think that's kind of already kind of been presenting itself here in game one of the preseason. We got a long way to go, man, but there's some stuff to take away from this from a coaching standpoint that I think validates a lot of what we've been seeing, a lot of what we've been saying, and a lot of the energy around the Cowboys organization as we head into the season.
Yeah, so let's get into it. You know by now that the Cowboys beat the Seahawks in the preseason opener 17-7. And it's one of 3 preseason games that they have now. We got the W.
hmm
Now, slow start for the Cowboys. They
Yep.
looked a little sluggish. The penalty bugaboo was back, and it just looked a little like it was the first game, right?
hmm
And they got off to a slow start. Seattle goes down and scores, and we're thinking right away, oh man, this is trouble. But we don't need to go and break down the entire game. But let's start on the defensive side of the ball. Give me a takeaway that you took from the game, whether positive or negative, on the defensive side of things that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal the highlight from the game, and I want to give credit here because I went and during the game, I thought that the guys looked way more fluid as they were coming to the ball. I think one of my biggest complaints last year, and we talked about it a ton with the Murrays of the world, is just they seem so reluctant to go seek out contact. And a lot of missed tackles, a lot of silly mistakes that were being made last year with the Matt Eberflus defense. Well, Bobby Bell, as I was kind of researching this and just seeing, okay, how many missed tackles did they have? Who led the team in tackles? All that. Bobby Bell puts out Cowboys had 19 missed tackles in last year's preseason opener. Next gen stats charted the Cowboys with 0 missed tackles tonight.
Mm.
So that to me, it felt that I went to find the data to support my feeling. But during the game, I thought, man, even for the second and third units, largely, these dudes are seeking contact. They're physical. They're wrapping up. And so, to me, that was the biggest takeaway from the night.
Yeah, I agree. I think defensively, you looked at people were seeking out that physicality. That usually doesn't happen on a Cowboy defense. and the attention to detail with the tackling drills and all that stuff that they do in the preseason was evident. You know, Kalen Carson got called for a couple penalties, but
Mhm.
he was able to wrap up and tackle when needed. So I agree. I think that, you know, it was evident, even though it was a rough start. I think that they didn't get into the flow of the game until the second period,
Mhm.
second quarter, and I think that was, you know, probably just all the nerves and jitters
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I agree with that. I think obviously the defensive starters really weren't in there. We got to see Caleb Downs for a series, I think it was. If I don't know if it was much more than that,
Mhm.
but so there's not a lot of takeaways there. But it just felt like watching it, they were much better prepared
Yeah.
for what they were seeing, and you can't help but notice that as an astute football fan just watching, and to have no missed tackles in a preseason game, that's fantastic. The thing they did have was penalties,
Yeah.
and offensive and defensive, but
Yeah.
Kalen Carson got called out a few times, and speaking of the broadcast a little bit here, Bill Jones made some egregious errors on the broadcast, and I love Bill Jones. He's a good guy, right? I hate that he just kept making mistakes, and but Stanback, I think, called out Kalen Carson a little bit on the broadcast, and
Yeah.
rightfully so.
Mhm.
But it felt better, and even when though we're looking at second and third string guys, they just felt and looked like they were prepared to play football.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's spot on. The Carson thing, I've not been a big Carson guy, you know, going back to the off season, right when the off season started. I know you've wanted to have a little more patience, and it's one preseason game, but we got a lot of time to go here. No one's saying Kalen Carson's going to get cut after that performance, but I will say if we were at an even playing field after preseason game one, there's no way his trajectory can't be down. And these are some of the things that I worried about last season and coming into the offseason. Obviously, he was injured and he was needing to find his footing, things of that nature. But yeah, man, wasn't a good night. 3 penalties, 2 on the first drive. Just not a great showing for Kalen.
Well, and to be fair, we know that it's Bland and Durant are going
Hmm.
to start on corners. That's just, you know, I've been high on Durant. You
Yep.
were sort of iffy.
Yep.
Kalen Carson's just got to get consistently on the field and playing, right? It's like Revel, same
Hmm.
thing, you know. And he had some flashes, but it's just about being on the field, being consistent, being available, as Jerry Jones likes to say. And I think he'll be fine as somebody who comes in, or maybe even a nickel situation. I think he'll be fine. But
Yeah.
I'm not looking at him to start and make a bunch of plays on this team. What did you think about Malachi Lawrence in the brief time we saw him?
Yeah, I love. Here's one thing from a broadcast standpoint, and I doubt they'll do this during the season because I know this was a little more niche with it being a preseason game. I love the PMP only highlighting Lawrence on a particular. I think it was like one play, it might have been two, I can't remember, but they literally had the game in the big box and they put a little picture in picture only highlighting Malachi. And on that play, he had a real good dip to get around the edge. The dude's quick, man. That's kind of the biggest takeaway. Limited time, but we've seen it in training camp. If you've been watching any of the footage that the Cowboys are putting out, the dude has a wicked first step. So I think that showed itself again last night. I'm very, very excited about this defensive line has the ability to be top 5 to top 7 just as a unit, a defensive line unit in the league. I mean, there's a lot of, talent on that side of the ball. They've got veterans like Houston just coming on and doing work. So, yeah, I thought Malachi looked great and he's going to see a lot of one-on-one. So, I think it's very positive for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think he gave up outside containment that one play, and
Yep.
then they coached him up. That happens. He dips inside, gets caught in there, and they bounce it outside, and he gave up that outside containment. And but immediately the coach was on, you know, talking to him and coaching him up. But yes, that speed is you can't mistake that speed. It's there. It's evident. I think what you said is interesting because you had none of the starters out there. You didn't have
Right.
Clark. You did not have Williams. You did not have Gary. You did not have Ezeraku. And so just the fact that they could do well with the second and third group was fantastic to see the depth there. Um, they interviewed Overshone
Mhm.
on the sideline and a
Yep.
few other players, but Overshone's interview particularly stood out to me. What'd you think of Overshone's interview on the sideline?
Yeah, I think he seems so. I'm honest. I'm glad that he's not playing, but I hope he does get some time. He almost feels like the dude that you got to have do wind sprints before the game because he's just gonna be so hyped all the time. Like you got to get him to chill. But look, man, I am so hoping that he stays healthy because I absolutely love his game. He reminds me so much of, and not physically because physically they're very different. It's gonna be a little bit of a throwback reference for some Cowboys fans. Dexter Coakley, just the sideline to sideline, all over the place, north and south, getting to the ball on every play. Like that's who he reminds me of. Dexter was one of my favorites when I was younger. Um, and so Overshone just kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, the interview was one that you couldn't help but put a smile on your face.
Well, and to me, it's the depth of the team on a defense that's being rebuilt. It's like you don't have that depth at linebacker, so it is
No.
scary a little bit with Overshone. But when you see flashes and that line, like you said, the line and just it comes in waves there. It went from a weakness to an embarrassment of riches real
Yeah.
quick
Yeah.
on that front line. And I just don't know how any team's going to handle Clark and Williams in there, and then Gary and Azaraku on the outside one-on-one matchups. It's just going to be fun to watch. And as long as they can eat up blocks, as we've talked about, and the linebackers can make plays with Overshone, D. Winters, Malachi Lawrence, those guys come in and make plays. It's going to be a pretty good year. Now the secondary piece of this is interesting because you didn't have Jalen Thompson play. You didn't have much of Caleb Downs, and we already
Mhm.
said the two starting corners did not play. So
Yep.
it's really hard to assess what's going on. But how about this Julius Wood
Yeah.
that everybody's been raving about in practice and camp and all that stuff, and he gets in the game situation and he looks like he's a football player for sure.
Yeah, and this is where when you start talking about being the general manager of a football team or being, the president of operations of a football team, right now today, if you go to ESPN, Julius Wood is listed as the fourth free safety on the roster. Like after that game, you can't possibly cut him. But then who do you cut other? Like you're gonna keep Hooker, you're gonna keep Locke, you're gonna keep Bell, you're gonna keep Thompson, obviously down. Like there's only so many roster spots, man. You put Julius Wood on a practice squad, I guarantee you somebody's snatching him up. So like that's the part of I think maybe gets a little understated is especially when you're dialed into a team or you're really looking at position battles. Dude, that's not a fun part of being a general manager, I'm sure, is like having talent and people and having to make some really, really tough choices.
No question about it. And you wouldn't think that that would be the situation the Cowboys would find themselves in, but it is. And Julius Wood seems to be great against the run. Let's see him better in pass
Yeah.
situations. I'd like to see more of that. We're not gonna, as they say, Denny Green. We're not gonna crown him.
Yeah.
We're not gonna
Yeah.
crown him yet, just yet. I think it's fun to see guys step up and play on the defensive side. I thought Christian Parker, Schottenheimer said after the game, man, he is who he says he is, and he
Mhm.
was calm, collective, in control, and Schottenheimer was downright giddy about Parker's performance on the sidelines in the first preseason game. So off to a good start in the Christian Parker era, I guess, in preseason edition.
Yeah.
But anything else on the defensive side of the ball before we move over to offense?
No, I kind of mentioned to him briefly. I thought obviously he had I guess it was one sack. The other sack got taken away because of the penalty, but James Houston, I thought he looked great. And we talked about it briefly here, man, but the depth is just getting crazy. We haven't even talked about LT Overton. We didn't really talk about Sam Williams. These are other guys that you don't expect them to put up double digit sacks, but if at the end of the season Sam Williams and James Houston have 5 or 6 sacks apiece, I wouldn't be shocked. And so you start stacking all that stuff up, and it's just the depth at the defensive line and kind of edge rusher position in the 3-4. It's looking like it's going to be an exciting one. Hopefully, everyone stays healthy.
Yeah, the James Houston thing is just fascinates me because it always seems like he's making plays,
Yep.
but he barely gets any playing time.
I know.
So there, it's like, so what is driving that? And maybe,
Yeah.
if we have Nick Harris on again, we can ask him about James Houston
Yep.
because he's always making plays and having an impact. And so maybe there's some other things going on there we don't know. But yeah, he played great. And you mentioned something else I was gonna talk about, but I forgot already. So that's the beauty and the I guess downside of being old. Sometimes you want to forget stuff, and you do, and
There
sometimes
you
you
go.
don't want to, and you
And you
still
do.
do. So shout out to all you old people out there watching the Dead Jeff show. Um, okay, offensively, all right. There's been a lot of Gotti talk.
Yep.
Greatest offense there is, not ever, but greatest offense there is today, right now in the league. And so offensively, there's things we came in we wanted to look at. Running back 2, who's going to
Mhm.
win that battle? QB 2, who's going to win that battle? Right tackle, right?
Yep.
Left tackle,
Yeah.
what's going to happen there? So give me something on offense that you took away that you were either glad to see or you like still concerned about.
Yeah, I'm not going to do the obvious one. I think Camden Brown's the obvious one, and I think we'll spend some time there here in a minute. That feels a little too easy. Michael Trigg is someone that I'm going to keep beating the drum for, and I think Luke Schoonmaker, man, I actually like Luke. I like his game. I've always liked him. Just watching him play, kind of a little bit of a throwback, kind of tight end. Someone put him on alert because Michael Trigg is coming for his job very, very hard. I thought Trigg looked great, athletic, physical, just all the things you want. They mentioned on the broadcast about, him having some uh maybe blocking issues, but look, there's plenty of tight ends littered throughout the history of the game that probably never blocked for more than 2 seconds in their entire career that are in the Hall of Fame. So, I don't think Michael Trigg's lack of blocking is going to prevent him from making the roster, but I would say that's my immediate standout. Outside of the obvious Camden Brown, he led the team with 4 receptions and had 30 yards to go along with it, tied for the most targets with 5. So, clearly Michael Trigg was being looked at, and I thought he showed out well for himself.
Yeah, we've been big fans of Michael Trigg on this show. I think there's no doubt he has hands and can catch. He's a pass receiving tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But tight end is a position where you must be versatile. You got to be able to block, right? And you have to be able to catch. And you have to be able to run routes. And you also have to be able to draw attention. And I think Trigg's athleticism, his ability to catch passes, will draw that attention from the defense and could get somebody else open at times.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you landed exactly where the issue is he's young, he's a rookie. How much attention to detail is he putting into his blocking? And we did talk to Nick Harris a little bit about Michael Trigg, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't seem to be as impressed as we were. But man, did Nick Harris nail Camden Brown!
Yeah.
And, we put out the clip as he scored that first touchdown and a little prematurely because then he scored a second touchdown. And the maestro was at it, man, getting it done. But we should have, waited just a little bit and put both of those touchdowns in that clip. But, man, it was fortune smiling on us to have Nick Harris on the show. And he said, watch out for Camden Brown. He's been making plays all camp. And he goes out and snags 2 touchdowns, one a one-handed and a great throw by Milton there to only where Brown could get it. But Camden Brown was impressive. He just, in the preseason, you're looking for guys that jump off the screen, that look just different, like playing at another level than
Mm-hmm.
everybody else on the field. And that's what Camden Brown looked like.
Yeah, he looks smooth. If nothing else, I mean, yeah, everything you're saying, 100% agree. But just beyond that, just so fluid, so clean. Didn't feel like the game was moving too quick. We talk a lot about, and even Nick Harris was talking about, some of these guys just getting acclimated to the speed of the game coming out of college. Um, if he is getting acclimated, man, he's not showing it. That touchdown in the corner, I mean, it looked like he was in complete and total control of the entire situation. Will stutter step off the line, fade to the back corner, never even thought about putting a second hand on the ball, trusted his hand completely. Um, I mean, yeah, dude looked like he was in total control. And I love the interview when the ball, and I know a lot of receivers say this and they should think this, but it just felt like it had a little extra something on it. When the ball's in the air, it's mine. That's my mentality as Camden Brown, and he plays like it.
Yeah, he just oozes confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And Shoddy said afterwards that the game's not too big for him. He shows up, he makes plays, he does his job well, and he has confidence in himself. And you just start thinking about the receivers. Now, I don't think did any starters play last night at
No,
all on
mm-mm.
offense, even the line.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think they were all backups.
Yeah.
But if you start looking at this receiver situation for the Cowboys, you're talking about CD,
Yep.
Lamb, you're talking about George Pickens,
Yep.
you're talking about Flournoy, you got Turpin in there, and then now you got Camden Brown,
Jonathan
Mingo, Anthony Smith, and
Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
yeah, and you got to keep him on your team if you want to win a Super Bowl, according to the way things have gone.
Yeah.
And then you have number 15 that showed some flashes last night too, which I forget his name, Johnson. So you're probably only going to keep 5 receivers, and I think and Mingo wasn't bad last night. He did fine he's a possession type receiver, and he had some nice body catches. But for me, it's you got to put Camden Brown on this roster. If all he's going to do is continue to make plays. Now, again, to quote Schottenheimer, he said, well, Brown's got to start stacking these things up. Instead of flashing it, it's got to start stacking, which is a great coach speech to go, you can't just do flashy things every now and again. We got to consistently see these things from you. But man, what a rocket has been strapped to his back off preseason game 1. And again, shout out to Nick Harris for absolutely nailing that on the Dead Jeff show, and getting that out there. But who are they gonna cut as receivers?
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at it right now, and to me, the easy one becomes Mingo. He costs you nothing. It's $0 in dead money to cut him, and you save 1.1 million in cap space to cut him. I mean, I think at this point we can say that we basically gave a 4th round pick for nothing. I mean, he's and not to be overly disrespectful, although I get there is no way to sugarcoat that. He's really not done much while he's been here, unfortunately. Now he's also playing behind, 2 of the top 7 to 10 receivers in the NFL. So I mean, it's only one ball, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think to me, Pickens, Lamb, Flournoy, and Turpin are locks. Those 4 are just hard locks, no question about it. And so you're really talking about, for sure, the conversation with Nick Harris was really kind of, do they carry 6?
Yeah.
They could. And I think with this receiver room, you probably will. But we can only say for certain they're going to carry 5. And in that case, I do think right now today, Camden Brown has moved himself into that 5th spot. MVS would be in the 6th spot, and then Mingo would be in the 7th spot. But Anthony Smith and Tyler Johnson are absolutely 2 guys that are not necessarily just going to go quietly. Here's what I'll say. If you look at these 8 receivers, 7 of them will be on NFL rosters on the starting day is my prediction. I think maybe one of them makes it to the Cowboys practice squad, but I think 2 or 3 of them that initially get put on the practice squad are going to get snapped up pretty quickly.
Well, if you compare this to what you talked about on the safety side, you can't keep 6 receivers and all those safeties.
That's right.
So they probably will keep 6 receivers, and I'm not sure where they're going to cut from to keep 6. It makes sense to do that because I don't know that any of those guys are going to last on the practice squad for too long. And it's just a funny turnaround because you mentioned the trade for Mingo and the clunker of a trade that was.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been this resurfaced talk about Cowboys winning the Micah trade, which, if we go back and revisit that, it's like what Jerry said is actually what's transpired. I'd rather trade Micah and get 3 guys that can come in here and help make this defense better or make our team better. 1 for 3 seems like a good trade in Jerry's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what's led to all of this depth on the defensive line. Now, this trade with Mingo didn't lead to anything, as you just said.
Right.
But we're not going to crucify Jerry for it because he's made some good trades. He's made some bad trades. I think, to me, it's it just goes to show on this gaudy offense that it is now going, how did this league let the Cowboys get Camden Brown? That's
Yeah.
what's the talk now today after what he did last night. And so I think it's just fun because now, of course, people are going all overboard. Now they think Cowboys are winning the Super Bowl because
Oh yeah.
of what they did last night. Oh, look at this offense, just one after the other. Oh, we don't need George Pickens now that we got Camden Brown. It's just the over exaggeration hype that comes with preseason football, which is another reason why I love preseason football because people act crazy.
Yeah, everyone's losing their minds, and we're going to keep seeing this because I think, you know, as you look at what the Cowboys have, what they're trying to do, they're going to protect, I think, the first, maybe that, you know, that game where the starters go, they might get a series, maybe two. It's not going to be much, though. And unless that just looks horrible, which I just don't think, you know, generally speaking, the defenses are a little behind the offenses, and preseason, especially with new coaching staffs. Um, you know, that's the way it's supposed to work. Don't tell the Cowboys that after only giving up 7 points last night. Um, but yeah, I just think unless the Cowboys, something crazy happens, this hype train's going to keep rolling right on into New York for that night, prime time. I mean, gosh, man, that thing's going to be ridiculous. You can't wait.
Well, I'll say usually I've heard it the other way that defenses are ahead of offenses early in the season, and then offenses adjust and figure it out. So we can debate that at another time. But what I will say is that with the offensive flow and the lack of starters playing, our backups were better than their backups. It
Mm-hmm.
appears. So that's, I guess, a bragging right if you want to brag on that, Cowboys fans. I think the concern for me on offense has always been and will be offensive line,
Mm-hmm.
which Drew Shelton struggled
Yep.
at right tackle. Footwork was not great. Got a little handsy, as they said on the broadcast, but stuff we've been talking about all this time. And then running back two, to me, it's kind of like what you said about James Houston on defense and about he always making plays. Same with Malik Davis.
Yep.
You put Malik Davis in a game and he just gets yards. I didn't see much electricity from Blue. I didn't see a whole lot of power from Maffa. So I'm still concerned at running back two and the offensive line. If Gotti's going to be Gotti, we've got to perform. Now, the good news is I don't know that there was a lot of pressure on Milton and Howell last night.
No.
So the backups held their own, but there was some spots where you can see going against better talent that they could struggle on the offensive line.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought because yeah, on one hand, I do think there were some individual struggles, but overall, I think they held up pretty well. If you look at the combined stats for Howell and Milton, 20 of 27 for 201, 7.4 per, two touchdowns, no picks, and a combined 119.5 rating. I mean, that's pretty solid. And then just to the Malik Davis point, Davis rips off 5.6 a rush, while Blue goes 2.4 and Maffa goes 2.3. Um, that's troubling. If you went into this thinking it's Blue and or Maffa's job to lose in terms of RB2, to me last night it just looks like Malik Davis has a stranglehold on this. Now we're not seeing everything, but I wouldn't, for my money, I wouldn't change anything from last season. I would leave Malik Davis in the RB2 spot unless the Cowboys are just thinking they're going to go out and get someone else, or of course wait for cuts and then be able to pick up someone that gets cut, which in the running back world will almost be a certainty. I thought Malik Davis looked great last night.
Yeah, and I think I'd never have believed in Blue or Maffa.
Yeah.
They've never shown me anything to be excited about.
Yeah.
Blue seems like he's not hitting the hole hard. It seems like he's always just sort of tiptoeing through there. And Maffa, for a powerful guy, I mean, to this point, doesn't seem like he's enjoying being hit. So I think, it's easy for me to say behind this microphone and doing a podcast,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's that's their job. And look, maybe it's preseason game one, but I don't think that's settled. I would do the same and give it to Malik Davis. He just seems to be running hard no matter when he runs. Now, he did run later in the game, and maybe the third string was in. Maybe that's what we could say could have led to him, but he's always running hard. He's consistent with the way he shows up. So that's that. What you said about the offensive line is fascinating. It is, because we were able to survive the individual breakdowns by certain members of the offensive line, but as a unit, they didn't really allow much to happen. And so that's a sort of I guess it's a great score sheet as a unit, but individually, let's see how they grade them for that game.
Yeah, I think the other thing, just to the running backs, is just the amount of kind of these, veteran running backs that either are available, may become available, guys that are available for trade. You think about like the Najee Harris's, the Joe Mixons, like just those guys of the world where Williams is your starter. There's no question there. And if that's the case, then you just need someone to come in and give him a spell. Maybe every third possession, give him a drive off going into the fourth quarter. To me, someone like Harris, like Mixon, even Austin Eckler, just I don't know that the RB2 is currently not on the Cowboys roster, I guess would be my thought.
Yeah, there's always that move, but what we're talking about with all these other roster spots and where the money is going to go, you want to keep somebody that's cheap.
Yeah.
Some of these veterans, might not go as cheap as Malik Davis or somebody like that, and the guy's earned it. I think people sleep on Malik Davis. I
Yeah.
really do. He doesn't get a lot of credit, and so, but I think maybe it's just, maybe you're right. Maybe running back 2 is not on this roster. What did you think about QB 2? Howe versus Milton?
Yeah, I'm a big Joe Milton fan. I don't know if I could put something on it tangibly. Obviously, his arm it's special. It looks different. They mentioned on the broadcast he's the only quarterback in the Madden 27 to have a 99 throw power rating, which is a little ridiculous considering some of the other guys you got out there. But good for Joe Milton. And when he throws it, man, he throws a pretty football. Some of those over the middle were just screaming out of his hand. I understand what Sam Howell did with the Commanders, and I don't think you can ever downplay a gamer. And when I say that, you know what I mean, but just in case some don't, guys that when they get in the game, it doesn't really matter what happens in practice. It doesn't matter how fast they ran the 40, what kind of underwear Olympic, performance they can put on. When they get in the game, they just always seem to perform. Sam Howell feels like he has a little bit of that. So I don't know that you can underplay that. And I'm definitely talking myself into a great political answer here because I'm not going to pick either one of them. I would lean Milton slightly, but I think they both did very, very well for themselves.
Well, I mean, to me, you got games of Joe Milton last year that weren't great,
You're right.
but you got the talent of Joe Milton and the youth of Joe Milton. I don't know how old Sam Howell is, but
So Milton is 26 and
Mhm.
Howe is 25. Howe's actually younger.
Yeah. So there's not like this big youth difference.
Yep.
I think Howe started more games in the NFL than
That's right.
Milton, but Milton has all the intangibles. They both are athletic. They both can run. But Milton has a better arm. If you forced me to choose, I would pick Joe Milton. Just because I don't think Howe's done enough to beat him out. If it's even, you give it to the incumbent, right?
Yeah.
And Milton's been here. He's been with Schottenheimer for a year. He knows the offense. He hasn't done enough to lose it. Now that could change over the next 2 preseason games, but that's how I am when I look at these situations. Howe has not done anything for me to be talked negative about, but has he done enough to beat out Joe Milton is the question.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thought in terms of the incumbent versus the newcomer, so to speak. I'll give you a little bit of stats here to support this. Sam Howell started 21 games in his career, has a 62.2 completion percentage, 22 touchdowns to 23 picks, basically even there, and a 77.5 rating. Joe Milton is basically better everywhere except for ratio, although he's played, like you said, considerably less games. So he's only started 5 games, has a 70% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns to 2 picks, so 1-to-1, and a 90 quarterback rating. So really, everywhere you look, with the exception of games played, and 5 is a small sample size, Joe Milton does, stat out as the better quarterback.
That's a long answer to say you agree with me. And now that you go, Joe Milton is the guy you have to beat out if
Yeah.
you want his roster spot. Now, contract situation, how much money are they paying each? Could be an interesting discussion. And is there anybody out there who needs a backup QB that would be willing to work out a trade for one of them? Is
Mhm.
another avenue. I think it's a good position to be in because we're not talking about some of these. Like, I mean, you saw what Cooper Rush did in preseason, wasn't good. You saw what Tua did, that wasn't good.
Yep.
And so there could be teams that need a backup quarterback that you could make a trade for one of these guys. Just my thought.
Yeah, no, I think Milton probably. The problem is, I think Milton's the one that's going to fetch you a better return. Just to the contract point, Milton's making 4.2 this season. Howe 2.5. Um, so obviously, not much of a difference there. Although I guess it matters. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're starting to talk about, you get to carry that emergency quarterback. So I mean, theoretically, you could keep all three. But if there's another team that really has a need at the QB2 spot, and you could get a 5th rounder, 4th rounder for Sam Howell, a 3rd rounder for Joe Milton, do you start to think about that? I'm not sure that I would, but it's something to think about.
What did we give up to get Joe Milton? We traded for the Patriots for Joe Milton.
Yeah, let's
What did we
see.
give up for him? Was it a 4th round or 5th round?
Is it going to upset you, but something higher than that?
I'm just going off my gray beard memory here.
They got Milton and a 7th pick for a compensatory 5th rounder, so a 5th round
That's
pick.
right. Yeah. So you basically didn't give up much for
No,
him.
no.
And so, yeah, I don't think he's going to fetch a 3rd rounder. But to me, I would just keep my options open, is what I'm saying. You don't have to keep all three, and you can, use it to get a legitimate asset back in here. But hey, look, it's another situation where we're happy with what they have
Yep.
in the backup situation. Speaking of quarterbacks, did you see what happened to your boy Jackson Dart
I didn't
in
actually.
their preseason game? He
No,
got
I didn't.
rocked.
Oh, did he?
And then he goes immediately to the blue tent. And then after the game, he's talking about, it seems like every time I get hit, they're ushering me off to the blue tent. And I'm not sure what to think about that, or what. I'm not sure exactly the quote, but it was very, very funny because everybody in that town is worried about the way that guy plays and the hits he takes. And and it was, I think, the first series or first quarter that he took, he just got rocked, man.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's first quarter.
Yeah, and so it's just funny that we talk about, should you play your starters, should you not play your starters, rust versus whatever you call it. But to me, there's no chance we're going to see Dak play in preseason. I don't believe we will. There's really no chance we should see any of the veterans on offense play much. I think that I subscribe to the theory, maybe a series, maybe two, but that would be it. Do you think anybody on the offense is going to play in the preseason?
Yeah, I think they'll get a drive, maybe two in one of these games. You've got to do a little bit of a dress rehearsal. I don't know that. I'm just trying to think if, and obviously it'd be different under Shoddy, I guess, but I would imagine, my guess, I guess I'll go on record of saying I think they'll get at least a drive or two against, when they get all the starters playing, they'll get 1 or 2 drives.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad we have you on record
Yeah.
agreeing with me again. All right. Let's talk about this coaching staff. A lot's been made of the coaching staff. Was there anything else on offense? I don't want to rush to the coaching staff if you got something else on offense.
No, I think we definitely hit it all.
Okay. The coaching staff has been talked about. Schottenheimer in his 2nd year, being real involved with the hiring of the defensive coordinator. Christian Parker, my man crush on Christian Parker, the entire defensive staff being handpicked and put together. What did you see anything that was alarming? Did you see anything that was like, oh man, just affirming, like over the top affirming what we already think we know about this staff?
I wish they would have showed him a little bit more on camera early on when they showed him, and I think Jones is the one that kind of highlighted. He looked a little fidgety. Maybe that's just we don't see him all the time, so maybe that's his thing. But Jones posited that maybe he had a little nerve. Maybe not so much nerves as much as just nervous energy to get the game started.
Are you talking about Parker?
Yeah, Parker. Yeah, when
Okay.
they showed him at the very beginning of the game, Jones was kind of positing like, he's on the floor, he's on the field right now. Hasn't really decided if he wants to be in the booth or on the field during these games. Maybe a little nervous energy for him to get going. But I would say to me, the affirming things were just kind of what we talked about early on, is just the way the defense looked, the way it felt. Penalties notwithstanding, because I think that's the only thing where I felt like, oh man, that's very much like last season, especially the timeliness of the penalties. The face mask and the PI were big drive extenders. But yeah, it did feel different. It felt very different. The team, this may be such an oversimplification, but it just felt like the defense felt a little bit more cohesive, playing in space for each other as opposed to just out there trying to make plays.
And that's a direct reflection on the staff.
Yeah,
We've talked about that. Matter of fact, they look way more cohesive than Eberflus's unit did in any game last year, probably.
100%. Yeah,
And they were prepared. That's something that we're not used to on the
yeah,
Cowboy side of things. You talked about them not missing tackles, and that just goes to preparation as well. How many of the 11 penalties that were called on the Cowboys were on defense? Can we get that stat?
yeah.
Because I think the Cowboys look far more a little bit spastic on offense rather than defense, just with the penalties that were there, the pre-snap penalties, the movements, the all that stuff. We talked about Drew Shelton's struggle a couple of times, but it's not like he was committing penalties left and right. But to me, um, the cohesiveness of the defense is related to the cohesiveness of the coaching staff. Now remember, Schottenheimer wasn't really big on the Eberflus hire. He didn't get to be involved, right? And so I think there's chemistry here that we got to talk about. It's alignment from head coach, offense, defense, all the way through. It looks like we have that coveted alignment that we haven't had around Dallas in a long time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking here, and it looks like the offense had 6 penalties for 59 yards, total of 13 for 103. So the defense had 7 for 60 yards. Math is hard.
Well, they had
7,
13 penalties, right? Is
yeah,
that what you're
13 for
saying? Not
103. Yeah,
okay.
6 for 59 on offense. So yeah, 5 for 50 yards or so on defense. So about even, really, offense to defense penalties.
Yeah, and so, but it felt more cohesive. It
It
didn't
did.
feel like those defensive penalties were like as glaring or as noticeable as the offensive penalties, other than the
No,
PI and the face mask, right?
those are the two.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I think it's just more about you know confirming what we already knew. And when you get to go out and interview so many people for defensive staff, and then you get to pick and your head coach is involved, you're going to have that alignment a lot easier than this disjointed thing that they put together last year with Eberflus and Schottenheimer. And then the I think you look at Schotty's after the win speech. I mean, it's not anything legendary. It's
No.
not anything, too cheesy, but it's just right for this team. And I
Hmm.
think it's people are rallying around this duo of Schottenheimer and Parker, and that's the kind of synergy we need, and it showed during the preseason game and this first preseason game.
Yeah, and here's the other thing as a coaching staff, and this is something very different from Garrett and I'm already forgetting boy's name. That's in Steve McCarthy. Short term memory for that guy. But here's the thing: in the past, and man, I'm very curious what you think about this. But I really do feel this. In the past, expectations were the root of all evil around here. It really felt like when expectations came around, and high expectations, not just like, oh, we expect Dak to have a good season, et cetera, et cetera. It almost feels like, and you mentioned it with the post game, it just feels like this team has settled into the fact that they know what is expected of them. They understand what the standard is. And I'm not saying that they are thinking Super Bowl or bust, but it just feels like they know this is a team that should win games. They should be in the playoffs. It does not feel like the expectations are something that is causing this great deal of anxiety, or like, oh man, here we go again. The Cowboys have expectations being levied against them. And I think that is a direct reflection on the coaching staff, Shoddy, the way he runs his team, and then of course the addition of Christian Parker.
Yeah, and I think there's had to have been some conversations behind the scenes that begging and pleading Jerry to stay quiet,
Yep.
right? And we've highlighted that a lot on this show.
Yep.
But to me, I think with offense around here, offense has generally not been the problem. If you go to Garrett and McCarthy
Mm.
and those coaches, offense has not really been the problem here. It's always seems to have been the defense. But the thing that I don't like about Garrett and McCarthy's were how predictable the offense was. There were tendencies that they showed and they never got away from. And as Mike McCarthy hoodwinked his way into this Dallas Cowboy job by saying, well, hey, I watched every play and I did this and that, and then we come to find out later that he wasn't telling the truth. But he talked about tendencies and using data and analytics to help him get out of these patterns that teams could recognize easily. I think this team does that though. Now they don't just do it in tendencies and follow the same patterns on offense.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my understanding of watching the play calling. Now, some could say it's just a higher level of talent on this team, and they still are very predictable. But it's like the '90s Cowboys offense. You know what's coming. Try to stop it.
Yep.
Maybe it's some of that, but I think it's more about being smarter. It's about disguising things more on offense and defense, and not letting people see and easily spot exactly where the ball's going, as what we saw and what we heard around the league that Garrett and McCarthy do.
Yeah, and I just think and look, Shoddy is still finding his own space here. Like, I think although he's been around coaching forever, like once most people that have gotten the opportunity to do something their way, like truly their way, it takes a little time to figure out exactly what works and what doesn't. There's a little bit of, trial and error that goes along with it. And where Brian Schottenheimer is in year 2, certainly year 3, 5, it kind of feels like if this team can continue to have the talent develop, we're not just trying to flash in the pan this thing. That's the most exciting thing for me, is it looks to be like there's a future here versus, and I understand the NFL is, there's about as much parity in the NFL as there is in any other sport across the entire world, but it just feels like that. And I think that's a testament to Shoddy and the idea that he's just going to continue to get better and better at doing this thing.
Well, and the most exciting thing for me is that we've got some dogs on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Irvin's been talking a lot about over the years, we need some dogs on this team, some leadership, some guys that are going to go out and make these plays and hold people accountable to be at that standard. I think I'm really excited about that because that appears to be true, and they enjoy playing with each other. You could see it on the sidelines. You could see it, as much as we talk about George Pickens and the contract, he loves being here. He loves playing with CeeDee Lamb and Dak, and that is evident. So there's chemistry, and I don't mind the Super Bowl or bust because it's been that way around here for years, whether it's realistic or not.
Mm-hmm.
But this year it feels like it's realistic, right? You do have a chance because of that parity in the league to make those kinds of jumps from 7-9 to, as you predicted, 12-5, and in the NFC Championship game. Those things are easier done in this kind of era than previous eras. So I'm real excited about that. And we have been waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, this feels too good to be true. And I want to release that governor I have on my Cowboy fandom and excitement, but I can't. I got to keep it in because it's inevitable with this team. It has been. Maybe we've broken the curse. But I'm excited, man. I really am, from coaching staff to players to the way this team is coming together. It feels so much different, and I know that's hard to quantify sometimes, but our eyes, we see it. The
Yep.
the just the cohesive nature of this team. So I'm trying to hold down my excitement, and not go crazy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I'm excited for the season to get started, and got a couple more preseason games. We go the 22nd against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals scored some points in their first game. In case y'all didn't see that, so it'll be interesting to see how this one goes.
Well, there's a couple things that have been making me laugh, and it's all the Kyler Murray memes as little tiny Kyler Murray on a
Yeah,
Vikings. It's something about the purple and white that makes him look smaller.
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe there's a color expert that can tell us why. He just looks tinier, and all those memes, and then all of the the mess that Jaden Daniels is getting about this number 5 at
oh
LSU.
gosh,
Oh, that has been classically hilarious with everybody not wanting to upset Jaden Daniels. Five Guys, all these places with
Stub
five in
Hut.
it. Yeah, Five Below. All these
Yeah,
people. It's just been funny to see that take. What is he thinking? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
they don't have to retire your number. You don't get to tell them what to do. Now, it has been tradition that any Heisman Trophy
Yeah,
winner gets their number retired, but
yeah.
you know how many people are on a college football team?
Right, right. They already double up. You already have guys wearing the same number on offense and defense. Like there's only so
Yeah.
many. But yeah, I thought StubHub did the best one where they're not selling any more tickets in sets of 5, and then when you go on the website, you literally can't buy 5 tickets. It's either 4 or 6 and more. I just, it's been a lot of fun watching that. If it was his PR team and not him, that person should be fired. And they forced him to put a statement out, which in the middle of preseason football and trying to get ready for the season, that he would even have to address something so ridiculous. Um, but we love it as Cowboys fans, right?
Yeah, we do. We do love it because it's just drama for the Commanders.
Yeah,
And it sounds like Jackson Dart's going to be a
yeah,
drama, a lightning rod for the New York media. So that just bodes well for our Dallas Cowboys. And listen, tell us in the comments, what are you most excited about? What has got you on fire here for the Dallas Cowboys? Super Bowl or bust, baby. That's what we're hearing now, that we beat the Super Bowl champions in preseason. Relax, everybody. It's preseason and none of the starters played. So, but our backups are going to win the backup world
yeah,
championship. But it's okay to be excited, guys. It really is. But let's temper it a little, just a little, because we know what happens around here. But maybe not this year. Maybe not. Now, Nick, when are we going to get into some college football? Because, man, that is right around the corner.
yeah. I think we'll definitely have to do a segment next week as we get into the college season and just all the wonderful things going on there. You've got a Manning sitting at the top of the Heisman Trophy. What am I looking for? Odds.
Race. Yeah.
Yeah, the Heisman Trophy race, the Heisman Trophy odds. You got a Manning sitting up there. You've got the SEC just in full bore. The one thing that I think, and I'm just looking right now, the one thing that I think that we're missing is, you got the Clemson LSU game, which kind of feels like a yearly tradition at this point. But I think that those kind of first week 0 in college football, and then week 1, kind of missing some of those marquee games. So I think that's a conversation to have at some point, is just, has this playoff committee picking these teams kind of basically told all these big programs, hey, we have no reason to schedule tough out of conference games. Like, y'all are going to punish us for it. Why would we do it? And I think it's hard to argue with the logic.
Well, you failed to mention the blatant disrespect that my man Signetti's getting over at Indiana and the reigning, undisputed national champions of Indiana, right over my shoulder here. And that couldn't be a better setup for Kurt Signetti. Keep disrespecting us. Keep telling us we can't do it again. And where they got them ranked right now, 6th, 8th, somewhere in there. It's no love. And listen, Cousins look good, and Mendoza look good in the preseason.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that plays out for our man Mendoza. But the blatant disrespect for the defending national champions, that has to be something we note on this show, and we will as we move forward. Just watch out, because you don't want to give Signetti anything else. That chip on his shoulder is big enough, and we love Signetti and his comments in the media when he has that chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, what a crazy thing. I'm looking at the rankings. You got Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Indiana as your top 6. Yet Ohio State has 38 first place votes. And then at number 6, Indiana has the most first place votes after them at 14. So if ever there was, just to your point about the disrespect, and like, it looks like the experts don't know how to, where to sit Indiana, second most first place votes, yet they're 6th overall ranked in the preseason top 25. Wild.
Well, I do get it. I mean, he came out of nowhere. They're like, oh, can he do it again?
Yeah.
We'll see. But I get some of it. But come on, man. Let's be real. They're just making it harder from the beginning. But I can't wait to talk more college football. Can't wait to get the preseason over and get to real cut down day, and the time of the life is when NFL season begins. Our first full season covering the NFL here on the Dead Jeff Show. Thank you for the love this week on the views, the comments, the likes have been soaring. Again, thank you to Nick Harris for gracing our show. And Little Birdie said he may be back, and he may be back more consistently on this show. So thank you for being a part of this show. We can't wait to talk about preseason game number 2. Until next time, peace.